everybody. I was going to say welcome to Arrakis, but it doesn't look that bad out my window. I think it's because the sun is really shining down. You can see that it's like pretty foggy, like in the background there a little bit. You know, you can't see anything across the way. But that's about it. I was out there a little bit earlier. I had to, I'm glad you appreciate my joke, Big League Chew. It's not lethal. I don't think. I was out and I had to run an errand I couldn't avoid. So I had a mask on and sunglasses. But I gotta tell you, when I came back in, I like totally smell like smoke. So hey, whelmed. I didn't love it. I'm going to see, hey 80s model, thanks for gifting a membership. And KJ, congratulations on getting the green emerald. It looks good on you. So anyway, I'm going to go, hey Whatmouth, thanks for joining. I'm going to go later today to see Transformers because I haven't seen it yet. I couldn't make the press screening over the weekend. I was working on Movie Math. It was on a Sunday. So I'm going to see Transformers tonight. And I'm going to take an Uber there, even though, you know, it's like, usually I would not do that, but it's like pretty bad here actually. So, you know, not great, but of course we all feel very bad for Canada, who of course who are on fire. Hey, like Cat Shack, I'm glad you got to be a diamond. You're moving up to the gemstones. Happy anniversary to you too, Jake. Hey, Bara. So yeah, thank you, Sean Malia. I think I will Uber. Ubers, you know, well, it's not so much that Ubers are expensive, whelmed, but they add up, you know? It's like, you know, it's like a little Uber here, a little Uber there, and suddenly you're like, how much did I spend on Uber? So anyway, I have a very high rating, though, that I'm very proud of. All right, so anyway, yeah, it's pretty smoky here. But what we're going to do is drink some tea. So we've got some great stories today. I had to dig back into last week to get that Hocus Pocus 3 one, because things are still kind of a little bit slow. This smoke feeling is awful. It's making my allergies. I'm not happy about it. All right, so anyway, good evening to you too, Mr. Jojo in Dubai. All right, so we're going to get ready. Here are the rules, as usual. Thank you, Grayson. The rules, as usual, are that... I will give you a little tea, actually, Chris Kahn. Okay, so the rules are as usual I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. The smoke's doing a number on me. All right, so anyway, the rules as usual are please keep your comments to the topic at hand when I open it up to questions. But then if you want to ask me about anything, that's what the last 10 minutes of the stream are for. I have to end this stream around 5:30. Because I got to get ready to go to see Transformers so I can review it tomorrow. And I apologize that my review was a little late on that. All right, okay, here we go. All right, get ready, here we go. All right, so story number 1. Boop! Oh, Flash's got a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes. Honestly, having seen the movie, I would expect this to have been in the 80s, quite frankly. 10 points higher. 72 is low for what I think this movie is. Oh, it's up to 73? It's changing by the minute, yes. So, thank you, Gorilla My Dreams, for gifting 5 memberships. That's very generous of you. So, thank you, Bay McCullough, for gifting a membership. So, I think it's better than in the 80s, but based on, like, certain elements, as being a comic book movie, etc., like that, I would have expected it to still be in the 80s considering how good the movie is. So I was a little surprised that it was so low. Thank goodness it's not rotten. So it's in the 80s. I think that, now what does this show? I think that DC still has a problem. I think DC still has a really big image issue. I think that comic book movies in general are starting to struggle. Even Marvel has been hit with some really low scores lately. They even got some rottens. That's right, Paul. I think CinemaScore will be very important. Heather, thank you for gifting some membership. So generous of you. And then also, here's the big one. I feel that Ezra Miller is what's hurting a lot of these reviews. Some of you were talking to me about that yesterday, that a lot of the reviews, if you looked at them, they talked about the fact that they just really couldn't get over what Ezra Miller had done. in that situation. Ezra Miller has not done a mea culpa. They have not apologized. Their first public appearance will be on the red carpet on Monday. And so I guess I was going to answer that at the end, but is it Heather's birthday? Happy birthday, Heather. Giving gifts to other people. So generous. So at the end, I was going to say, I think that the conversation is about Ezra Miller's activities outside of the film are really something to be saved for the box office discussion when you see whether or not that's been affected. And also, I think when we talk about something like the Rotten Tomatoes score, because clearly it's been affected. So I think that's where that comes into play. In my opinion, personally, not for judging the film by itself. Everybody has different criteria. Everybody conducts themselves a different way. I believe in reviewing the work itself and kind of just keeping it in that space. For instance, someone could say, well, you didn't review Blonde, but that's because of the actual film, not things that happened outside of the film. I think that, I think it should be noted. I mean, I certainly touched on that in my review. I think you have to give it a nod. I think you shouldn't pretend that that's not the case. But I feel like, and also I'm surprised because I have to tell you, and some people, it won't matter to them, but Ezra Miller did such an incredible job in the film. Ezra Miller, I mean, the strength of their performance is just incredible. They have whole scenes, huge swaths of the movie where they pull off very strong dramatic and comedic sequences opposite themselves. It's all them playing off of themselves, doing both parts. It's just really incredible to see. That's why I said it was just so amazing that they had done this to themselves. And everybody should be celebrating. What a good job. That's why I brought up, some people were surprised at my Will Smith comparison, but I said that because somebody changed their own conversation. Everybody should have been talking about how good Will Smith was in King Richard. He was incredible in that movie. It was a great part for him. He just really did a fantastic job. But Will Smith changed the conversation. And you see this movie and you're like, everybody should be talking about how good Ezra Miller is doing here. Like, this is just like next level acting. And I think Jonathan Majors is the same situation. Everybody was talking about how brilliant he was. And then you have a situation where, this actor changes the conversation. And I think there's a conversation to be had about, can you ever come back from this stuff? I think, people talk about Robert Downey Jr., but that was a long time ago. Could Robert Downey Jr. come back today? I'm not sure. I think that, I'll ask you. I'll do a poll. I know you guys like polls. Is there a way for any celebrity, we'll just do celebrity, to come back? So, no way. If they do the work, and then I guess we'll say no way if they do the work. And then I guess some people might vote, we cancel too many people. I think those are your three options, really, quite frankly. Steven said Robert Downey Jr. also didn't hurt others physically. That's true. He only hurt himself. Andrew Merrick, Mel Gibson's still canceled, although Mel Gibson's not doing the work. Andrew Merrick says, you're helping me feel less guilty that I want to see it. Really trying to separate the art from the artist. Hopefully Ezra does better. There's only one post-credit scene on The Flash, and it's just for fun. It's just like a cute credit scene. It's not anything of any importance. But, I think it's a complex conversation. And I think, and also, I guess it's also like, how long did it go on for? Like, that's really, like, for instance, Kevin Spacey was for years and years and years, and hurt so many people. I think that's really, really bad. I think that Ezra Miller had a nervous mental breakdown. It was only over the course of, not if you include what's going on with this girl, then that puts it in the other category. It's very complex. And I got to tell you, stuff like this has been happening in Hollywood since the very beginning. Like the very beginning, and we just never knew about it. The general public didn't know. So it's really complex. It's a very complex situation. Quinn says, I never make these live streams due to work, but I love supporting you because, thanks, Quinn. Thank you. I'm glad you're kind of here today. Let's see here. And Lord Baratheon says, do you think Jonathan Majors could make a comeback? I don't know the extent of the abuse that he's being accused of. We have to wait till his court date. And then Big League Chew says, while I respect everyone, isn't it like tomorrow maybe? While I respect everyone's opinions, I feel as a reviewer, the review should be focused on the content. Why review it if your criticism will solely focus on your personal feelings about the individual in the film? Yeah, I think, I don't want to critique other critics. I'm just telling you what I think is the situation. Happy birthday, Sea-Doo. You're 24. Oh, that's great. You're gifting 24 memberships, did you? There you go. Wow, 20 memberships. That's awesome. So another generous person on their birthday. Sea-Doo and Heather, you're both really cool people. Jake Van Norden says, is it true the worst thing about The Flash is the VFX? I didn't really think the VFX, they were bad. It was weird, but it didn't bother me. In fact, I thought it was kind of interesting. I was like, it's got to be a choice because they've worked on the visual effects for years. So the fact they look so bad has to honestly be a choice, All right, so let's look at some past RT scores, okay? So for DC, because it's been a journey. So let's start out at the very beginning. Jose says, it bothers me that all of a sudden we act as if Ezra's actions were simply allegations. Well, Jose, I think it's really tough, I think that they were definitely having a really serious mental breakdown. And I know from behind the scenes, from people I spoke to, that people were genuinely worried about their safety. Hey, Janet McKee, and, self-harm. All right, so I'm not going to look at your comments for a moment. So if you say something, I might not answer. Okay. All right, so here are the Rotten Tomatoes scores. So we started out with Man of Steel, 56%. Woo, that's rotten. Literally, there you can see. 29% for Batman v Superman. That's where, I loved that. I loved that movie, but, a lot of people really hated it. Suicide Squad, also horrific. But then, things started to rebound a little bit with Wonder Woman, which was, I think everybody can agree, phenomenal. Those first few films, I think, though, that the first couple of films really kind of cemented how people feel about, how critics and a lot of people felt about the DC cinematic universe. So then after that, we moved on to the next films. Justice League, as you can see, continued the tradition. Aquaman was, at least fresh. Shazam. Oh, thank you, Sea-Doo. Shazam, that's great. Shazam brought it back up. It was another Wonder Woman. Birds of Prey, I think Birds of Prey was a film. I know some people really like it. I'll give you my tea. So I said I had some tea for you. So I said in my review yesterday, I was like, I don't think Christina Hodson wrote The Flash. It just makes no sense to me. And one of my sources saw my review and was like, it's funny you say that, Grace, because she didn't. She worked on it. She took a lot of the former versions of it and put them together. However, what my source told me, interestingly enough, and it was also recently said that Christina Hodson is not on Batman Brave and the Bold. She was not, that was incorrect. So she's not on that. My source had only said Andy Muschietti, but I'd seen a couple of scoopers that are usually right talk about Christina Hodson, which is why I included it on Monday's live stream. But interestingly, and this is why I'm not surprised that she's not on Batman Brave and the Bold, is because Andy Muschietti and Ezra Miller himself, rewrote huge swaths of that script. They both did huge rewrites on it, uncredited. So I feel like Muschietti's like, I'd like a writer I don't have to heavily rewrite, thank you very much. So I think that's very interesting. And I think when you see the film, it's just so different from Birds of Prey or anything else that she's written. And it's just so funny in a way that she's never been funny before. And, some people were like, support women, Grace. I'd say that about anybody. I don't care regardless of gender or ethnicity. I don't feel that she wrote the script. And I think it's pretty clear she didn't write the script. And so I'm pleased to see, I was right. Shahar, I'm not sure why they decided to give her the credit. Maybe they didn't want more drama, but it's crazy to me. All right, maybe they didn't want to give Miller a writing credit because of all the problems. They were like, let's just leave it alone. All right, so I'll end this poll before we finish the RT scores. Oh, it's Janet's birthday too? I didn't see it. Happy birthday, Janet! Hooray! A lot of birthdays today. Today's the birthday stream. I love it. All right, so let's see here. So if they do the work, 71% of you feel if they do the work, they can come back. And I would agree with that. I would agree, and I think, it's really easy to judge other people until you find yourself maybe in a similar situation. And then you'll be like, if they do the work, maybe, right? Come on. So I think forgiveness is important. And I think, sometimes people make it clear they're not going to change. But I think you have to give them, just like Groot said in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, everybody deserves a second chance. So, it starts to become an issue with 3 and 4. So I feel, but I think I think part of the problem with Will Smith was that he went and partied after the Oscars, right? Like, I think if he'd gone home and been sad, I think, and, issued a statement faster than he did, I think that would have gone a long way to helping him, So I think that it's really important to be like, whoa, I realize that I made a mistake. The person says they realize they made a mistake. So yeah, that's really nice. It's 71% of you. Only 10% of you feel there's no coming back. And that seems about right to me, quite frankly. So I'm very happy. And so that's the T for you there. Also about the script. All right, so if you look here, Birds of Prey, I think Birds of Prey, because of the representation that it had, I think that a lot of critics rallied behind it. Wonder Woman 1984, I think people were a little too hard on Wonder Woman 1984. That really blew up in the face. They tried to do the heaven can wait thing, but they were supposed to take over a body that was dead. You don't take over a body that is going to be used again and do stuff with it. That's really bad. Danny, you got to stop spamming. I really appreciate your enthusiasm, but you do it every stream, and please stop doing it. I don't want to block you. All right, I'm gonna at least give you a time. I don't want to give you a timeout, man. All right. Then after that, recent movies. Zack Snyder's Justice League was 71. Look at the Suicide Squad, James Gunn. There are some filmmakers that really, get along with critics, and I think that Gunn is certainly one of them. Although he didn't enjoy that same protection, with Guardians of the Galaxy. I almost feel like the Suicide Squad, we just did this vote about whether or not you can come back. And I've always felt that the reviews of the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker were in large part because people wanted Gunn to be able to come back. They felt that it had been unfair, how he'd been treated, about jokes, really horrible jokes that he'd made. And so they said he deserves a second chance. Maybe that's why he put that in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 so much. He was like, yeah. And so I feel like that was very much the media working hard to give Gunn his second chance. Boy, did they! The guy's heading up DC. I've never seen such a Phoenix return of force. Black Adam, that got chewed up, 38. And then even Shazam 2, 49. So considering these scores, I got to tell you, 72 ain't bad. I think Andy Muschietti's like, I will take it. I will take the 72, quite frankly. I think what's interesting is whether or not it will go up or down. Will it go up or will it go down? Usually when, critics who don't get early access but still are Rotten Tomato critics, usually when they come online, the review points go up a little bit. Went up for Guardians by a bit, went up for Mario. But I feel that Ezra Miller once again creates a wild card situation. I think that a lot of those critics are probably going to also have a problem about the way Ezra Miller conducted themselves. So I think that that's going to be an issue. And I agree, Josh loves movies. The cinema score is going to, because right now, I think this is a strike against Miller, another strike against Miller for hiring Miller to go forward. Because Miller can't get the critic reviews. Miller is a liability in that regard. So that's an issue. I think the only way that Miller, would be able to recover, he'd have to go on the best apology tour you've ever seen. I'm very curious to see how Miller conducts himself on the red carpet on Monday. Super, super curious. This is going to be a PR, piece de resistance. It's going to be like the greatest PR stunt ever. An Oprah interview, Cosmics. Maybe. That's actually maybe not a bad idea. Some kind of interview like that, maybe. But what Miller needs now is Miller needs a strong cinema score, audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, and really good box office. If that happens, I think and also, a lot of you haven't seen this movie. Once you see the movie and you see how good Miller is in it, I think you're going to find yourselves in a Jonathan Majors type situation. And I don't necessarily know if Jonathan Majors should be canceled either. It's really, this is very tough. It's very delicate. And I think a lot depends on how these people conduct themselves. And I don't think that Jonathan Majors did himself any favors when Jonathan Majors released the text messages that were very damning, quite frankly. Did I hurt Danny's feelings? What did Danny say? Danny, don't be sad. Danny, you can't do whatever you want and then be upset when someone says, hey, that's a little annoying. Oh, Danny, you're not going to leave. All right, so anyway, I missed a few comments. So now is the time to ask me questions about this, and then before we go on to the next story. So hold on, let me go back. I missed a couple of comments. Elijah says, I think audiences are checked out with DC films until Gunn's reboot. I do think it sucks a little bit that Aquaman is coming after this, to be honest with you. I feel like this should have been the end, okay, now we're going on to the new stuff. And I don't know what they're going to do with Blue Beetle. Although a friend of mine saw the Blue Beetle trailer in front of Spider-Verse, and she was like, that's going to be a huge hit. And she's usually pretty good at these things, so she might be right. That'd be interesting. All right, let's see here. Hold on. J-Lo, 1972 says, mental illness does not excuse Miller's violence. Mental illness rarely makes people violent. They are usually the victims of violence. I don't agree with that, J-Lo, 1972. Now, to be honest, I obviously don't have any professional experience with mental illness, with dealing with that. But as someone who lives in New York City and comes across a number of mentally ill individuals, because I don't think they're doing enough to help those people in the city right now. And of course, there's the whole thing about that subway killing. Mentally ill individuals can become quite dangerous. So I do think that, and I think that's an exact argument that was used in the subway killings, the subway killing of that individual, Neely. That even though Neely had been a threat, people said that's because Neely was, mentally ill. So I think that is something to factor in. Big Lee Chu says, do you feel the folks were a bit more negatively biased towards DCU because of the contrast comparison to the MCU formula? I don't know. I think, sometimes they're negative against DC because they think it's too silly. Sometimes they're negative against DC because they think the risks are too big. Like, some critics felt Joker was irresponsible, although I felt Joker was brilliant. And it won Oscars to prove it. But, I think it's tough, and especially, it's tough, I don't want to talk about critics too much. I don't think that's appropriate. All right, hold on. John Teal says, imagine the backlash if they use a woman the way they used a man in Wonder Woman. Yeah, that's been said before, John Teal, but I do agree with that comment. You mean in Wonder Woman 1984. Jay Altman says, as someone with a bipolar family member, I can say manic episodes can make good people do crazy stuff. I can't have an opinion without knowing more. And that's true. I think, a lot of times we're judging stuff, where we have really no idea exactly what's happening. I think it's, I do still believe in innocent until proven guilty. And I think that social media has kind of flipped that around. And I think that that's, alarming. Victoria, thank you for gifting a membership. That's so generous of you. I see somebody else gifted a bunch of memberships. I'm going back. It looks like a ton of them. Bartleby, so generous. Hey, W, hold on, let me see. Bartleby gifted 50 memberships. Bartleby, you are a generous soul. Andrew gifted 1, which is appreciated as well. And I see that, let's see. Hold on. Victoria, as I said, just gifted a membership. All right, let me answer these questions here. I think I'm all caught up. Tom, thank you for gifting a membership. Thank you so much. Okay, Tom Barron, that's a cool name. I like that name. Galliot Production says, getting the Aquaman writer to do the Flash 2 script is certainly a choice. I liked Aquaman, though. And again, as I said in my, as I said before, I didn't see Christina Hodson getting hired to do the sequel. I think that's a little suspicious right there. Let's see. And then, again, Bartleby. That's really generous of you. And Jake Van Norden says, do you see Sasha Calle's Supergirl returning? I hope so. I thought she was phenomenal. I feel like, as I said in my review, the Flash movie is all about, like, just relax, man. Let's just enjoy these stories. I'll tell a story over here. I'll tell a story over there. Maybe over here in the middle. And let's just enjoy them. And I was like, oh, I'm having a good time, so let's try it. All right, so let's get on to the next story of the day. Some of you are thanking Bartleby. That's very, very kind of you. Daniel says, Grace, Variety reported that interviews will not be conducted at the Flash premiere. Yeah, that's what I said the other day. They're just going to walk the carpet and take pictures. No interviews. They don't want Ezra talking to anybody, which probably means that Ezra Miller is still not in a good place, which is too bad. Katchik says, my dad ruined my family due to depression and medication addiction to a point that he doesn't know what is real and what's in his head. That's so sad, Katchik. I'm sorry that happened to your family. I'm sorry about that. Danny, you're back. You're good. Danny, you're more than welcome to comment. I love your comments, Danny. I mention you all the time. I answer your questions all the time, often more than other people's. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, but people just don't want you to spam, Danny. So that's it. I don't know how you got around my anti-spam measures, but that kudos to you. You're very inventive. I applaud your ingenuity. But you want the chat to love you, Danny. You want the chat to love you. Alwatch says, was the music as good as the Joker's score? I do like the when they have like the flash running. I kind of like that. They had it in the opening with you'll see it when you see like how they do the logos in the opening. I don't want to ruin anything, but they had that music come in and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I like this. All right. Okay. All right. So, what happened to Kay? Hold on. I love Kay. I got to go find out what happened to Kay. Where is it? I can't see Kay's comment. I can't find it. All right, let me look again, and then we'll move on to the next story. Sorry to take time on this, but Kay's an OG. Let's see here. I'm looking for it. I'm looking. Where the heck is this thing? Where? Maybe Kay will write it again. Oh, Kay, is this Kay Walton? With just the K? I know Kay Walton as well, but where is it? How do I not see it? Kay just said stop trolling. Okay, all right, let's move on. Danny, look at the craziness. Okay. Yeah, no, it's Kay, right? What did Kay say? Kay, whatever's going on, I hope everything's okay. All right, so let's move on to the next story of the day. All right, so story number 2, here it comes. Boop. All right, SAG strike. They voted to allow a strike, and that's why we're discussing it today. So the Writers Guild of America is on strike. The DGA looks to have averted a strike. And now the SAG enters the conversation. SAG has entered the chat. Thank you very much. Fran Drescher, who's there with a Writers Guild person. Fran Drescher is as we discussed before, got a lot of criticism for the way she was addressing things, and people feel that Fran Drescher doesn't really speak for the writers. That Fran Drescher is a little conservative. She's got a ton of money off of The Nanny because of residuals, back in the day. So some people felt that maybe Fran Drescher really wouldn't speak for the majority of SAG members who are unable to make a living as an actor, even though they are trying to. So I think Fran Drescher was like, everybody was like, we should have voted for Matthew Modine. So Fran Drescher was like, So I think Fran Drescher is going to work really hard to make sure people are happy with this. So everyone said at the beginning they were all going to stand together, but the DGA snuck in there and signed a last-minute deal and undercut the Writers Guild. So the question is, what will SAG do? Now, the Directors Guild, as we just discussed on Monday, they're smaller. So they have fewer members, and there's only one director on most projects. Even on a television show, it's not too many people. SAG is even bigger than the Writers Guild. They're huge, so big. Also, as I just said, a lot of people who are actors cannot make a living as actors. And in fact, one thing they've been discussing is that they're supposed to get paid for auditions. I saw this story the other day that apparently it's already been approved that you have to be paid to do an audition. And I was like, ain't nobody going to pay people to audition. I think, and you don't want that, because if they have to pay people to audition, they will shrink the number of people they're willing to see. And therefore, they will only see people that they're recommended to them, because they're not going to waste their time. And it'll be harder for them to find that actor that they're like, you know what, let's give him a whirl. Let's give him a chance, okay? So I actually think that's a bad idea. Some people are like, oh, yes, I should be being paid to audition. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's going to work out. All right, so 97.9% are voted in favor of a strike. What's with that? What, like 2.1%, man? Who are those people? So that's very strong. People are like, oh, they're ready to strike. Now, this is the stuff that they've asked for. So Fran Drescher had a statement, and she said, this is what we want. We want economic fairness. We want more residuals. We want regulating the use of AI, which to me is very interesting. They're not trying to get them to get rid of AI, but just to regulate the use of it. And I'm like, slippery slope, Fran. Slippery slope. I would get rid of AI and say you can't use it whatsoever. But then here's something that's unique to actors. Actors really want to have a situation with self-taping. Self-taping came about during the pandemic, where instead of going into audition, you had to tape yourself at home or wherever you were and send in the tape to be considered. And of course, because everybody wants to get cast, people started trying to give themselves an edge by upping the production values on their audition tape. So we've seen a lot of audition tapes where people are like in a closet or, just like wherever they can find. But people started like doing these really strong mass-produced audition tapes because you need someone to read with you. When you go in to read, the casting assistant reads with you. But, if you want to self-tape, you need lighting, you need to do your hair and makeup, you need to set up a setup, you have to get someone to work the camera for you if you want it to really be good. You need to hire someone to read with you. It's starting to cost money to audition. I don't think you should get paid to audition, but I don't think it should cost you money to audition either. And that's where it's really become a problem. Because even though the pandemic is over, casting directors decided they loved self-tapes. They were like, oh, I just have to go through these tapes and that's it. But although I think that's not great either, because you might not look at all the tapes, but you have to see everybody who's sitting in your waiting room. So I'm not too big of a fan of that either. The other problem is that a little mini cottage industry has come up of people actually sometimes who are casting directors helping you to make casting tapes, to make self-tapes. So in fact, what they do is they have a class, or they will have a setup for you to come in and use theirs, and you pay them. And that really, I feel, should be not allowed, because you're profiting off of your own business. And so I think it's really bad. It's like the same as paying to meet a casting director. That's also a very slippery slope. Nobody takes advantage of somebody quite like they take advantage of actors, which is really sad. If you're ever thinking of being an actor, you got to have your radar up like crazy. You got to be really, really careful. So they really want to alleviate the costs of self-taping. Wade says auditions always cost money, and that's true to a degree, because you have to travel, you have to take time off from work, you do have to do your hair and makeup, but it's not nearly as expensive as having to do self-taping. And also, I think that it doesn't make for an even playing field. When you used to go in, you were sitting in a room with a chair, and everybody sat in the same room with the same chair and read with the same casting assistant. There was, of course, that actor from White Lotus, Lucas something, right, who had that horrible tape where the director insulted where he was living, and was like, said horrible stuff about his apartment. And the actor, Lucas was like, what do you want from me? Lucas Gage was like, what do you want from me, man? I'm a struggling actor. Are you going to hire me or not? And it was really bad. It was awful. So I just think it's really bad. Alawatch said, but that girl from La La Land did it so easily. Oh yeah, to become an actress? Hollywood always makes it easy, and they love telling you these stories that make it seem like it's so simple. Like, you know that story about Lana Turner getting discovered at a soda shop fountain? Totally not true. That's a PR thing. She was working really hard to get in Hollywood for a long time. So it's just PR. You know, my favorite story is Harrison Ford was in Hollywood for 11 years before he got anything of note. 11 freaking years. And the only reason he became famous was because he was a carpenter. That's how he made his money over those 11 years. And he happened to be doing work in George Lucas, I think. It was George Lucas's office. And he hadn't even been called into audition. And they were like, that guy looks pretty good. And I think they had him read with people first. He wasn't even actually outright auditioning. So I think it's just really funny. All right, so just take this, take all this stuff with a grain of salt. Being an actor is a job like anything else. Hey, Dragon. All right. So we'll see. They have the entire month to decide, to enter negotiations. So the last time that SAG went on strike was 1980, and it lasted for 95 days. And it would really shut down the industry. You know, with the writers, they have a bunch of scripts already stored up. So they're like, okay, well, they're on strike. We'll just film these. But now if actors couldn't work, it would be devastating. So the Writers Guild could really end up getting left out in the cold, which would suck. Again, they're always in the end. Oh, Alwatch, thank you again. So, we'll see. I think that Hollywood feels they can wait them out. You know, I've already seen a number of writers being like, I have no money coming in. And that's a real concern. And also the idea is that you're not supposed to cross the writer's picket line. That's the whole idea. That's how they shut down productions. They go and they stand outside of studios and sets that are shooting on location. And they're like, are you going to be a scab? Are you going to cross a picket line? And people, of course, are like, no, especially because you can all see me. And you're going to tell everybody. Hi, Lena. Welcome back. But the picket lines are dwindling. You know, it's hard. It's hard to keep up that resolve. It's hard to go march for days on end, and it gets demoralizing, especially when the DGA signs a great deal behind your back. So we'll see what happens, We'll see if SAG and the Writers Guild stand together like that photo that you see there, or if Fran Drescher signs a deal in the middle of the night and the Writers Guild is left on their own. Oh, I think that might be what happens. I hope not. It's really rough. I hope the writers shouldn't back down. Writers don't get nearly enough respect. They don't get enough respect. All right, so that's the second story of the day. Now, the third story of the day, boom, baby. The smoke's really doing a number on me, boy. It's everything I can do to keep my concentration. All right, whew. So Sean Bailey did an interview in the New York Times. He was like, hey, what's up, guys? I am the Kevin Feige of Disney movies. And so he talked to them and gave a bunch of, he just basically said, I'm doing the best I can here, man. I've had some big hits. What do you want from me? And I think the only really big thing to come out of it, because we'd already heard everything else that he was doing, was that, yes, they are working on Hocus Pocus 3. And everybody was like, woo, Hocus Pocus 3, yay. I have mixed feelings about it. They didn't confirm whether or not it was Disney Plus or not, although I would assume that it is. I really hope they work on quality control. I liked the last Hocus Pocus 2, but I didn't think it was theater worthy. And I didn't think that, I thought that it was a little bit more of the checking boxes storytelling than organic storytelling than that Disney has gotten in a little bit of trouble for. So I think that they should be a little nervous about that. All right, that's right, Asham. I'll do a poll. Okay, hold on. What did you think no, I guess, do you want a Hocus Pocus 2? A Hocus Pocus 3? All right, hold on. Heck yeah! Maybe. And then no. And then the other one will be no. 2 was 1 too many. All right. Vote away. Vote away, my pretties. Ha 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 ha. All right, I do like Halloween. All right, so anyway, I would hope that the third movie would be a touch better than the second one. But obviously, it did extremely good numbers on streaming. You don't hear them announcing another Enchanted, although Amy Adams, of course, would be very expensive. It took a lot to convince her to do Disenchanted. Although I think, Sarah Jessica Parker, Bette Midler, and Kathy Najimy ain't cheap either. So they're probably getting quite a bit of money to do this film. And I think this shows the strength of Halloween, that it's really great to have Halloween content. And I would agree with that. This thing could be garbage, and I'll be like, I need something to watch around Halloween, and I'll turn it on, quite frankly. That's how Disney often gets us. You're like, but it's for the holidays. Santa Claus, the Santa Claus 3 show, the Santa Claus series, that got a second season. So I think Disney really likes having content for the holidays. Oh, iReady, 3 movies for 3 sisters. I wish it was that clever. That's great. So we'll see. I love this little constant stream of hearts you guys have coming in. It really makes me feel so nice. I love you guys too. So we'll see. But there one thing that people took from the story with Sean Bailey was they were like, you don't have any original IP, buddy. You're just making sequels and remakes. Now, Dick Cook was the person, I think, who ran it before him. Dick Cook worked his way up from being a Jungle Cruise skipper, much like John Lasseter. But Dick Cook didn't hug anybody. But it wasn't just hugging. John Lasseter was definitely a predator. So anyway, Dick Cook, he established a strong relationship with Jerry Bruckheimer. And then also he, of course, started the Pirates movies, which did incredibly well. And I guess, so, I think to be fair, Sean Bailey does have the Haunted Mansion movie coming out. I don't think that's going to perform in the level of Pirates, to be honest with you. It's just not that kind of a scale. But it could do very well. I think it looks surprisingly good, and I hope the movie's very good. So we'll see. But I think Pirates is, has adventure in it. And, I think that Haunted Mansion seems just like a little smaller scale. But anyway, I'm excited. I think that, Disney's, it's weird. Disney was doing so well. It was weird. It was doing so well before the pandemic. And then now it's just like problems everywhere they look. Jordan says, I haven't seen any of them, so it won't matter to me. You ain't never watched any Hocus Pocus? What? All right, so let me look at the poll. All right. Do you want a Hocus Pocus 3? 31% said maybe, 24% said no. Only 24% said heck yeah. It seems like Hocus Pocus 2 wasn't that good. And on that note, 19% felt 2 was too many. But about 50% of you, a little over 50% are not really into this. So I think it might be a quality issue. I think people maybe felt the quality just dipped too low, particularly when you watch stuff like Pinocchio and Peter Pan and Wendy. That's the thing. I think Disney keeps hooking us on nostalgia and love of the brand. And so we're like, I did think that some of the stuff was good or had good elements, but, I'm somebody who likes breaking things down. I think that's interesting to me. Aaliyah, I have smoke issues, so I can't do math. So I did the best I could on the math on that poll. All right, so let's see. All right. I'm counting the reason we're not agreeing is that I'm counting maybe as a no, because I feel like that's not great. I kind of liked Pinocchio, Kay Walton. I kind of liked it. But it was not great. I wouldn't think you could see it in a theater. All right, so does anybody have any questions about this before we go to Ask Me Anything? Mic Drop says when you're at the top, there's only one way from there. Oh, I like that, Mic Drop. There's only one way to go, and that's down. But you could also stay. You could also stay at the top. Thanks, Coder Newbie. VTTV, I do not smoke. The smoke from Canada. Dan Blaster says, will Hannah Waddingham returning as the main villain change your mind? Probably not, to be honest with you. Just Josh says, any songs in this movie? I hope so. I heard a rumor that Sean Bailey didn't like songs that much in music, and that's why you haven't seen it too much in there. Thanks, Angela. Thank you, Angela. That's what I could have done for a story today, Nick. I forgot about Captain America Brave New World because I was such a race to put this stream together. I'll talk about that now. Let's get into the Q&A. All right, hold on. All right, Q&A time. All right, so Nick says, any thoughts on the new title for Captain America? So it went from Captain America New World Order to Captain America Brave New World. And I thought that was a good title change. I felt that was trying to be more positive. I think New World Order is very negative and like leaning into like all the problems that we have today. And I think Brave New World is like, no, it's going to turn out great. Be excited. And so I think that, I don't think Sam needs to be surrounded by negativity. So I like that change. I'm very excited for Cap 4 too, Cap 4 as well, Kay Walton. I think it's going to be great. Anaxamander says, have you ever considered making video essays, Grace? Well, these are kind of video essays, right? Ricky Rick says, Monica Rambeau will be going by the name Photon in the Marvels. Yes, I saw that toy leak. It's always the toys. That's great. I love Photon. I think that's a great name. I think Spectrum is cool, but I don't know. Then it's like, I don't know. I think Spectrum is used in other ways, but I think Photon seems more like action-oriented. Like, here comes Photon. She's going to photon you. Voice Inject says, what's the difference between IMAX, Ultra AVX, and 4D? Which is biggest and best? What should I watch Transformers on? I don't know. I've never been to an Ultra AVX or 4D theater. In fact, when I watched the Flash screening, it's very funny. I saw the Flash at the Regal Union Square, and they had these big logos for Regal RDX or whatever on the side. And they were lit up every time like the screen would get very bright. And so I noticed them while I was watching the movie. And I was like, am I in a 4DX theater? And I was like, I could have no idea how this is better than any other theater. So I like IMAX if it's like a genuine IMAX. And I also am very partial to Dolby. And so I would go for either one of those for Transformers. I haven't seen it yet, though. I'm seeing it tonight. The R-Man 63, I appreciate your question about 9/11, but I don't feel appropriate answering it. That was very personal for me. I was here, and it was just very bad. And I feel bad they closed the 9/11 museum. I think it's a shame to forget that. Bartleby, more generosity, Bartleby. Wow. What is it with the Tom Cruise drama wanting Nolan to move his film? Does Tom have a point? Or is he as unreasonable as it seems on face value? Is this all just him throwing around his Maverick clout? I love it. Tom Cruise is like, I'm Maverick. Are you really going to try and take my IMAX screens away from me? And I was like, Maverick, I got to say, they didn't seem to respect you too much in Top Gun Maverick either. I think he's just shocked that he would lose his IMAX screens after just a week. I think it never even occurred to him that could happen to him. So it's really more like a wake-up call. We're all screaming at Tom to move his movie to the first weekend of August. We're like, move it! And he seems to, I think he just can't believe that this would be the case. And I think he's going to get a really rude awakening. That's what I think it is. I mean, I guess he could try and get them to build screens at the last minute, but that's obviously impossible. Bartleby, that's very generous of you today. I really appreciate it, Bartleby. Adil says, just came from the last showing of Spider-Man in Dolby. Finished the first movie 5 minutes prior. Loved it. Only 1 week for premium screens nowadays. Well, I'm glad you got in there, Adil, and that's true. You got to get in there opening weekend if you want to see it on the premium screen. I mean, sometimes there's an exception, but, let's see here. Bubbles Emporium says, have you watched the Blackening trailer? I feel the movie could become very popular. I don't know, everything's coming out on June 16th. I guess I can understand they want to be around Juneteenth, but that weekend's just too crowded. It's got Flash, it's got Elementals, it's got Asteroid City, it has the Blackening. It's too much. It's like, why do that to yourself? But I did think the trailer looked very, very funny. I did not see a press screening of it. I talked to some people who did, and they said they felt, I didn't know this. It had been a short originally. And it seems to me like something that maybe would be a little bit better as a short, but I hope it does well. I think it looks very funny. Oh, hey, Sochi, you're 4 a.m. in Nigeria. I don't know if I'm going to review The Blackening, Sochi. I don't know. Vincent Rodriguez says, have you already watched Extraction 2? Have you already seen it? I'm getting my screener, they told me on Friday. But the review embargo is like really late. I'll tell you when the review embargo is, even though it's playing in theaters. Let me look. Here it comes. Hold on. The review embargo is Thursday, June 15th at 8 a.m. That's ridiculous. Is it not good? How bad could it be? Let's see here. Glubby Snot says, thanks for doing a stream on my 23rd birthday. Another birthday! Super sore from summer weights, but happy to catch a stream. Glad you're taking care of yourself, Glubby. Hope smoke goes away soon. Me too. It's supposed to be just here for one more day, but it's awful. I'm not enjoying this at all. Jake Van Norton says, do you have any info on your June movie watch-along? I sure do, Jake. It's on Sunday. We're watching Batman 1989 for The Flash. Come on over, enjoy the party. Ivan Sarmiento says, will you review the new season of Black Mirror? I'm trying to. If I don't get screeners, I might not. But I'm like, where are my screeners? And I can't even get them to write back. Sometimes they do that. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it. All right. Hey, thank you, Thurkos. That's very generous of you. Braden Duke says, just realized Sam Wilson is another of the few original African-American characters like Miles Morales. Could Captain America, A Brave New World, perform like the new Spider-Man? I think it's tough. I think some people wouldn't agree with you on that. I think that Sam Wilson is definitely an original character, but, as Falcon. I think that him doing the Captain America mantle, unfortunately, some people don't agree with that. I think he's a wonderful Captain America. I loved the political commentary and social commentary on that show. But it could do really well. I mean, it's got Harrison Ford in it, and I think, I hope the movie's really good. I would love to see it do well. Kludgy, I am definitely going to cover Secret Invasion. I'll be breaking down those episodes. Simon said, I forgot there even was a new Mission Impossible movie. Nobody is talking about it. Maybe he just did it as a publicity stunt. Right, Bartleby? Maybe he's just like, go see my movie for that 1 week. Sean Malia says, any tea, I'm so thirsty. I just gave you a giant picture of it with that Christina Hodson stuff. Graymo says, hi from Atlanta. I saw Fast X and Spider-Verse 2 in RDX, and you get shaken and stirred like crazy. Oh, those are those seats that move, right? You get smoke, rain, and smells. Pretty fun. That sounds awesome, Gramos. Boy, you must have been really moving around a lot during those movies. That's funny. I've never been to a 4DX showing. Let's see here. I'm all caught up. VTTV, hi. And Robert Mari, thank you for gifting a membership. That's very generous of you. Carter James says, happy Pride Month, Grace. My long-distance boyfriend and I are meeting up in New York later this month for the Pride Parade. Thank you for being an ally. Oh, that's so cool. You're doing a little Sleepless in Seattle action there. I love it. That's so great. And good for both of you for making a long-distance relationship work. Those are hard. Lisa, I'm not sure when I see the new Indiana Jones movie. They are having an early press screening, but I'm not able to make that one either, unfortunately. So I'm hoping to see it soon. I'm very excited about it. David says, is there any validity to these Scarlet Witch returning rumors? I'm hearing a lot of chatter on Witch's Road. Well, David, as I explained just the other day, and I'll explain it again, Witch's Road is actually Agatha, Coven of Chaos. That's what Witch's Road is. And I heard that actually most of the show takes place on the Witch's Road, and is only bookended in Westview. So that's really what Witch's Road is referring to. Daniel Perdomo says, are you going to review and see a screening for No Hard Feelings? Maybe. Let me see. Jonathan Gonzalez says, hey, Grace, your POV on film and TV is great. I'm glad you feel that way. Thank you. Out of all the MCU movies and shows coming up that have been announced, what are you most looking forward to? Thanks, Jonathan. I think somebody asked this the other day. For shows, I would say Secret Invasion. And for movies, I would say Deadpool 3. I'm very excited about that because I love the X-Men. Oh, one of you was right. They took X2 off of Disney+. What the heck is that garbage? Will R says, love Little Mermaid. Will Bailey get a Golden Globe nod for Best Actress in a Musical? I hope that she does. If anyone would do it, I think it would be the Globes. But I don't know. I would be great if she got a nod. I would like that. Robert Mari says, thanks for doing a stream on my 35th birthday. Definitely lifted my spirits on this Stranger Things day. Oh, I'm sorry your spirits are down on your birthday. Don't be down. Pep yourself up. Do something that you really like. Watch a movie that you love. Go do something great. Have a great time, Robert. Matt says, Grace, do you think The Flash is cool for my 5-year-old son? He's really excited about it, and I can't wait for him to see it. Well, Matt, it does have a lot of swearing in it. So if you are okay with your child maybe swearing after seeing the movie, I don't know if they'll pick up on it or not. You know them better than I do. But I think that's really a you call. I mean, as I said in my review, there is a lot of swearing in the movie, like a lot. And, there is a lot of skin shown. So, but, 5-year-olds like to run around naked. I mean, I don't think they sexualized it, so I think you're okay. Keith, I did start Rebels with my lunch this afternoon, and I have to tell you, I only watched 1.5 episodes, but I actually liked it quite a bit. It reminded me a lot of The Bad Batch. Daniel Herati says, why is Tom Holland taking a year out? I think maybe to work on his script choosing skills. Tristan says, it's 12 a.m. in Kenya. Hey, Tristan, I love talking to somebody all the way over in Africa. That's awesome. Olivia Allen says, Grace, I got into silent movies recently. Thoughts or recommendations? Well, if you checked out, obviously, I would think the Charlie Chaplin stuff. That's what I know best from that era. Jake Van Noren says, do you have any info on your... Oh, I already answered that. All right, hold on. Charlie Michael says, Grace, do you know what's going on with Severance? Only what it's been reported, Charlie. Ben Stiller says it's going to be okay, so I hope it is. To drop the ball on that would be shocking. RG Way Foodie says, Grace, will you do a best of DCEU films ranking after Aquaman 2? Probably. I would love to. Carter James says, I said that, I got that already. Damon242 says, would you consider watching The Last of Us game cinematics to get ready for season 2? Oh yeah, I want to do that, but I don't want to watch it right now. I want to wait until closer to when season 2 is going to be coming out so I don't forget it. Azen says, Grace, will you react to Mortal Kombat gameplay tomorrow? I sure will, Azen. I'm planning to, and any other cool trailers that might come out. I was not available during the PlayStation showcase, unfortunately, but I made sure that I will be around tomorrow for this. Liam says, hi, Grace. I'm curious what comic book storyline you would like to see adapted next or just dream movie. I don't know. I just really want to see the X-Men done right. I'd love to see them do the love triangle between Cyclops, Emma Frost, and Jean Grey. That would be wonderful. I love it so much. Jordan Saylor says, you're the best, Grace. Aw, thank you for doing what you do. Your content makes me forget my problems for a bit. Aw, Jordan, that's awesome. I'm glad I can lift up your spirits. It's so important to be able to have like a little something that cheers you up. I have that for me too. And good for you for being aware of your mental health and taking care of it. Jacob says, hey, Grace, any Star Wars movie updates? I'm excited for the 3 new movies. I've not heard anything else yet, just yet. Boab, you gifted 10 memberships. So kind of you. You just gifted a lot of memberships, I think, recently. You're awesome, Boab. You did it for Pride Month, I remember. Hey, Kyle. Amir says, I'm upstate. Air quality is bad. I hope you're safe. It's awful, Amir. I'm not having a good time. John Teal says, It prequel. Is it still in the works? I would assume so. Let's see here. Ethan says, X2 is my personal favorite comic book movie. It's really good. I love X2. And Marco says, I feel like the game night directors are so talented, especially action. Which DC character would you like for them to tackle? Yeah, they did a great job on Dungeons and Dragons, but it didn't do very well, which was a shame. I don't know. I think, I would love to, I thought they should do X-Men, as I said in my review. I think they would be really well suited for the team dynamic there. I'm going back. Mike, do you think casting a black actor as the Thing in Fantastic Four is a Princess and the Frog type situation and should be avoided? Well, as I said when we were discussing that, Mike, I feel like I don't really think that the black community would be really thrilled with that representation because you're really never going to see the actor. So yeah, I do feel, I don't really know how that's going to work. Steven Turner says, did you see Hemsworth interview about Love and Thunder? Both he and Lizzie kind of seemed annoyed with their last films. I don't know why everybody's turning on Marvel all of a sudden. I saw Anthony Hopkins today saying that he didn't feel he was doing real acting. And it's like, dude, did you enjoy your paycheck? Shut up. Alawatch says, did you get any Flash goodies at the screening? Might take my DC blankie. Oh, that's so cute. I didn't get nothing. They didn't even give out snacks. And I loved it. I don't know. It's why some people, whenever I tell you that we get free snacks for a movie, some of you are like, oh, they paid you off, Grace, with the free snacks. And you're like, I ain't going to give a movie a good review for popcorn or anything. I mean, I'm so honest, often getting myself in trouble. It's just, I think that's just a favorite accusation of people. It's so stupid. Bara says, hey, Grace, can I get unbanned from Twitter? Oh, sure, maybe you can, Bara. How would you reach me? What's your Twitter handle, Bara? Let's see here. Just Josh wants snacks. Also, I've gone on the Mediterranean diet. I can't even eat anything at the movie theater anymore. It's actually very good. I didn't think I could do it, but for some reason I can. I have not eaten any sugar since Friday. It's blowing my mind. I haven't had any tea since Friday, no caffeine. I've totally given up I'm only eating whole wheat carbs, no baked goods, no red meat. I'm doing it. I'm almost at a week. I'm very proud of myself. Let's see here. John Teal says, how about Michael Keaton for Batman Beyond? I would love that. Oh, it's 5:30. Thank you, Jake. See, I love talking to you guys. Hey, Salvador. Any word if Elektra will show up in Daredevil? I have not heard anything about that. Daniel says, Flash and Batman filmed in Scotland. Similarities. I don't know. I didn't notice anything. It looked great. Liam says, hey, Grace, I'm curious what kind. Oh, I already did that. I think I got everybody. Did Bara write their name? Boab says, hi, Grace, what does Little Mermaid need for Disney to save face? I don't know if it can be done, Boab. I think, right now we're just hoping it hits 500 to 600, quite frankly. Hey, Lone Wolf Media, you have been missed. I haven't seen you in a while. I'm glad you're here. Let's see here. Where's Bara? Did Bara write their name? I got to get going. This is serious, man. I'm going to miss my movie. Bara. Oh, Bara. Bara, that's not your name. Okay. All right. Well, Bara, maybe you could get a friend to DM me your handle and actually have them do the @ and then I'll unblock you. Let's see here. Amar says, I watched your Flash review, but I wanted to ask anyways what you think. I already said what I thought of her performance in that review. And I don't want to spoil anything. I have a mega spoiler review coming up. Look at the Philly variant thanking Boab for the membership. I'm working and was listening and just looked over and saw. Oh, I love that. That's so sweet. All right, I can't do shout-outs because I got to go. I've got to go. I'm sorry if I missed your super chat. I have to go. I have a wonderful rest of your day. There will be one more live stream this week. It'll either be tomorrow or Friday. I haven't decided yet, but there will definitely be one more live stream. We're sticking with the 3 live streams a week. Okay? I love you guys. I had a great time as always. And I'm gonna Uber to the theater. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna Uber. You guys. Oh, and Gunn's wife is not in the Flash, Shahar. She's not in it. It was great. I stayed in the whole movie. It was great. All right. And you know what? By the way, I just want to say, if James Gunn's wife wants to stay and be that character that she's playing, fine. I know some people like her character. I certainly don't. If that's going over well, that's awesome. But I just don't think you should stick anybody in everything. I think it's just too much. Okay, everybody, bye. You guys are great. Bye. Bye-bye.